There's a moment when you first step into Vatican City. The air feels different, heavier somehow. You hear footsteps on stone, languages blending, cameras clicking. But beneath all that noise, there's something else. A quiet pulse, like the heartbeat of a world that still believes in miracles. But here's what most people don't realize. The Vatican wasn't just built. It was forged. From secrets, debts, politics, and dreams. And the truth of how it rose from the swamps of Rome into the center of global faith is a story no sermon ever told. I remember the first time I saw St. Peter's Square. From above, it looks like two enormous arms, stretching out to embrace the world. But that's not what it was at first. When this place was conceived, it wasn't about comfort or welcome. It was about power. It was about proving something, not to God, but to men. Because 500 years ago, the church was in crisis. Europe was fracturing. Money was running out. And the faithful were beginning to ask questions that terrified the papacy. So the Vatican did what great empires always do when cornered. It built something bigger, something that could outlast doubt. In the early 1500s, Pope Julius II looked at the decaying Basilica of Constantine, a crumbling relic over the supposed tomb of St. Peter, and decided that wasn't enough. He wanted a monument to eternity, a dome that could touch heaven, a symbol so vast it would remind every wandering believer of who held the keys to paradise. He summoned the architect Donato Bramante, a man of genius and arrogance, and whispered, "Build me a temple for the ages." Bramante smiled and replied something the Pope never forgot. "If you want eternity, Your Holiness, prepare to pay for it." At first, the money flowed. Gold from indulgences, payments made by ordinary people for the promise of salvation, poured into Rome. And with every coin came another brick, another column, another dream. But here's where the secret begins. Because the Vatican didn't just build a church, it built an empire of finance. Hidden behind the pious facade of marble and prayer, a vast network of bankers, nobles, and papal agents began to weave a system that would quietly fund the most ambitious construction project in human history. They traded salvation for silver. They sold pieces of heaven to buy stone from Carrara. And the man who helped make it all possible wasn't a priest or an architect. He was a German monk named Johann Tetzel. Tetzel preached across Europe with a message that echoed like thunder. As soon as a coin in the coffer rings, a soul from purgatory springs. People believed him. They emptied their purses, and the money, millions of ducats, flowed straight to Rome. What few knew was that this was no simple charity. The church had gone into debt to one of the most powerful banking families in the world, the Fuggers of Augsburg. And those indulgence sales? They weren't just about faith. They were a bailout. The Vatican was building its glory on borrowed time. And when a young scholar named Martin Luther discovered the truth, he wrote 95 reasons why it had to stop. That protest, nailed to a church door in Wittenberg, would ignite a Reformation that split Europe in two. So you see, the Vatican's greatest secret isn't hidden under its floors. It's written in the contracts that paid for its walls. Still, the building continued. Architects changed. Bramante died, and Raphael took over. Then came Michelangelo, stubborn, visionary, alone. He inherited chaos, collapsing columns, unfinished foundations, bankrupt treasuries. And yet somehow, through the dust and despair, he lifted the world's largest dome into the sky. He said he wasn't building for the popes who paid him, but for God, and for the people who would one day stand beneath it. Michelangelo poured his soul into stone, each curve of the dome an act of faith, each rib a confession. And maybe that's another part of the secret, that beauty itself can be born from corruption. that something divine can rise from human ambition. But the Vatican story didn't end when the scaffolding came down. In many ways, that's when the real building began. Because behind the marble, another kind of structure was forming. A secret state inside a city, a place where art, diplomacy, and espionage would intertwine for centuries. By the 17th century, the Vatican had its own postal service, intelligence network, and treasury system. It became the smallest country in the world, and perhaps the most influential. Inside its walls, popes crowned kings, blessed armies, and settled wars. They also covered up scandals, silenced dissent, and struck deals that would shape nations. The Vatican learned that faith could build not only cathedrals but power, and that power could protect faith. There's an old saying whispered by curators who've worked deep inside the Vatican archives. Here, time does not pass. It is stored. Those archives, 85 kilometers of shelves, hold letters from kings, scientists, heretics, even Galileo himself. Historians say there are secrets there that could rewrite entire histories. But access is limited, because as one Vatican librarian once put it, some truths serve God better in silence. And yet, in a strange way, that secrecy is what built the Vatican too. Because mystery draws us closer. It gives shape to faith. And for centuries, the Vatican has balanced on that fragile line between revelation and concealment. It is a palace built on paradox, founded on poverty, sustained by gold, born from sin, and aspiring to holiness. Every fresco, every pillar, every chapel tells the story of a church that wanted to touch heaven and ended up changing the earth. When you stand in St. Peter's Square today, surrounded by tourists, it's easy to forget that under those stones lies a world of tunnels, crypts, and vaults, centuries of secrets entombed in silence. But if you listen closely, beneath the footsteps and the chatter, you might hear the faint echo of the real Vatican being built, not of marble and mosaics, but of belief. Because the true secret that built the Vatican wasn't money or art or politics. It was the human need to believe in something bigger, to find light in the shadow, to build meaning in the middle of chaos. That's the same force that built the pyramids, the same impulse that sends rockets into space, the same whisper that says, there must be something more. So when you look up at the dome of St. Peter's and the sunlight breaks through the clouds just right, remember this: what you're seeing isn't just a monument to faith, it's a mirror, a reflection of what we are capable of when belief meets ambition. The Vatican stands not because it is holy, but because it is human. And maybe that's the real miracle, that in our flaws, our greed, our longing, we somehow built something that still points upward. The Vatican was never just built from stone. It was built from us, from our fears, our hopes, our prayers, and our secrets. And perhaps, somewhere deep beneath the marble, those secrets are still whispering. Not to remind us of what we owe to heaven, but of how much of heaven we've already tried to build here on earth.